Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Television programming has helped boost interest in forensic science. While TV programs make crime solving look easy, in reality the science is quite demanding. It includes fields such as biology, chemistry, and engineering. A class at the University of Vermont provides an introduction to forensic biology. Across the Fence's Rebecca Gollin spoke with students who are involved in autopsies, fingerprinting, and real-life investigations.
A lot of it, the first part of the semester, is figuring out cause of death and figuring out.
Brooke Benoit's description of one of her classes sounds alarming, but figuring out cause of death is par for the course in this Introduction to Forensic Biology class.
Forensics means the study of the science of crime. So the study of a crime scene or to figure out who committed a crime.
Dr. Amanda Yonan is a lecturer in the biology department.
We know when we have 10, right? We can tell if we have a complete set of fingerprints. I cover autopsies, identifying different causes of death, trying to figure out the difference if it was a suicide versus a homicide. And then we cover arson. Today's class was about fingerprinting techniques and what sort of different techniques there are, what kind of fingerprints get left behind. So the ones that go sort of smooth are called plain arches, and the ones that have a sharp point in the center are called tented arches. And I'm sure some people in the classroom have arches on some of your fingers. They happen about 1 in 20 of us. This is one of my favorite parts about this lecture specifically, is about a third of the way through, they're all just looking at their fingers rather than listening to me. And I'm like, yep, they're looking to see if they have whorls or loops.
I discovered that I have all arches.
Biology major Megan Hillo is planning to pursue a career as a medical examiner. Learning about the different techniques used in the field is giving her a solid foundation for the future. On this day, the students are also getting the chance to get their hands on and in the evidence, so to speak.
So go ahead and try that.
You need to hold the brush and kind of sort of roll the powder over it without smudging the oils of your skin.
We work a lot with case studies too, like the O.J. Simpson trial. We'll pull out details of it and figure out how can that relate to what we've been learning about. So like with the O.J. Simpson, he was ultimately not convicted because some of the blood was missing from the lab. So it's something that people know about, but then we related it to our class. Why was that important?
We don't have to look at every single set of prints.
Yonan's specialty is genetics.
So
Guest lecturers and professionals in a wide variety of forensics-related fields often come to class and talk about the specifics of their work as well.
I like to kind of just hold it like this and just kind of twirl it over and do this.
I have Dr. Shapiro, who's the chief medical examiner. He comes in and shows them an autopsy video, which all of the students gross out but then love. I have a forensic toxicologist come in, and Detective Sergeant Potter comes in, and he walks them through a real case. So he talks about, how this case got started, what it looked like when they first got there, and then how the evidence collection led to more information, how they figured out eventually who did this and how. And so that case study really ties together what I've talked about through the whole semester. And it has some arson investigation, it has some DNA analysis, so it gets to sort of bookend what I've been teaching them.
The osteology from last Tuesday, she talked about how bones told a lot about a person. So it's interesting how even after everything else goes away, your bones could be fossilized, and that could still years later tell a lot about what type of life you lived, what your diet was, how your teeth were, your height, did you have any diseases, did you survive any diseases? And that was just really fascinating.
I've been a detective for 7 years. I've been in law enforcement for 14 years.
Detective Sergeant Mark Potter comes to Yonan's class to share techniques and case studies. He says that the fingerprinting methods the students are learning are what he and his colleagues use in the field.
The ones that we use on a regular basis are the ones that we used here today.
Potter says that while there are some advances in the products they use, the techniques for collecting evidence are tried and true.
Not much has changed in fingerprinting. It's pretty much the same. There's new applications and things like that that are developed by Searchy and things like that, but the practice in taking fingerprints has kind of remained the same, at least in my time.
For the students, a key lesson of the semester is that in real life, forensics is a lot different than what it looks like on TV.
Forensics in general is something that people assume that they know from watching TV shows because there's so many of them, but a lot of what is seen on TV isn't actually what would happen in a forensics case. So it's interesting to learn.
It's not TV shows at all. It's like the further I get into the research and like read books about it, it's just not even close. But it's 10 times more fascinating.
Learning how to read a crime scene and collect the clues left behind. These UVM students are on the case. In Burlington, I'm Rebecca Gallen with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Rebecca. Farmers across northern New England and New York State are learning about the best farming practices to help manage the impact of our changing climate. UVM's Extension Center for Sustainable Agriculture works directly with farmers, offering education and technical assistance to help mitigate climate change impacts. The center has produced a series of videos from around the Northeast, including a visit to a small, diversified farm in the Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts, just over the border from Vermont.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a nice, gentle rain, and it was just a nice rainy day. And I couldn't remember the last time that had happened. Usually, whenever it rains now, it just comes in torrents and floods, and we really have to guard against that in all sorts of ways. The water from that slope just comes in and hangs up. You can see it in the vegetation where all the sedges start. You know, we don't get good forage grasses until we start going up the slope, and there's some drainage there. This is real heavy bottomland down in here, and then just a little bit up we have a nice glacial lacustrine deep soil where we used to keep the berries, but that was the only part of the farm that was fit for that use.
The strawberries can be real hit or miss some years if you have a lot of wet weather, especially since we do pick your own strawberries. We need sunny weekends with lots of berries, and if we can get 2 or 3 of them, we have a really good year. If we only get 1 sunny weekend that coincides with the peak fruiting, then we have a bad, poor season.
Our strawberry season used to start, typically when I first got into the business, it started around this time of year on the first day of summer. Anywhere the 19th to the 20th would be our opening date for U-Pick. It's been back and forth and kind of erratic, but I've had years when the season started in May and was done before June ever arrived. We always think of May 15th being our official start of our growing season, and no frost warnings need to be made after that kind of thing. But that's, advanced almost to the 1st of May instead, some years. We've changed from a zone 4 to almost a zone 5 in this area right in here. We started growing the grapes. We've had really very little problem with a crop that we generally would have considered requiring too much heat for this area.
The reason we bought the hoop house was for season extension, so that we could grow things in the wintertime. As it turns out, it's been even more important for climate control, essentially, and growing things in the summer undercover. So we bought it for one reason, but actually the climate reason's been the more important asset. We can grow the tomatoes without any spray of any kind in the greenhouse, and you're watering from the bottom, so there's no moisture on the leaves, and you don't get blight. And the tomatoes are by far more profitable than the winter greens, as it turns out.
The dairy is a different business in terms of basically animal agriculture will shield you from some of these temperamental, weather, and other risk-related things. The risk management of dairy is not as complex as vegetable farming. in terms of you spreading out your risk.
And our two biggest crops are the milk and the strawberries. The cows are a great buffer against the weather because they don't care if it's raining or pouring, and they can graze no matter what.
We get at least 7 months. 7 months of grazing, if not more. We're putting them out in April, and we're usually grazing into December, unless there's early snow. And then we just start feeding a little hay, because usually it'll melt off and we can get going again.
You gonna drive the tractor for me? Hey, your wagon keeps unhitching. You gotta go, man.
My main coping strategy is always seeing a way to manage this resource and manage the risks of this resource in the best possible way.
This looks like a nice one, sweetie. Hearing climate change projections, I really believe in building this farm for many, many generations. And I envision, you know, I talk about planting things and trees and things that probably will never really come to their full maturity until after me, even. I feel like the best way to prepare for the future is just to really take care of this piece of land. Keep these acres, you know, healthy and thriving and always growing. The best way to prepare for the future is just to keep trying investing in one piece of ground, you know, and managing it really well. Farms aren't built in a single person's lifetime. They really aren't. They need generations in order to really become fruitful.
You can see more of the center's videos by checking the Extension's website, uvm.edu/extension. And that's our program for today. Once again, thank you for joining us. Across the Fence, I'm Fran Stoddard.